Convenience meals from supermarkets. Convenience foods are typically high in sodium. Eating more of these foods can increase your risk for hypertension since there is a strong link between sodium intake and high blood pressure. It's also encouraged the use of food labels to identify food products that are low in sodium. Let's look at some tips on how to make better food choices when shopping for convenience foods. The objective is to give you some tools you can use to help reduce the risk of developing chronic diseases due to poor lifestyle behaviors. This week's objective: learning how to make better food choices at the supermarket. Convenience meals from supermarkets. What to look out for. You now know that convenience foods may have added saturated or trans fats, sugar or sodium, all of which can be harmful to your health. Not all convenience foods are entirely unhealthy, however. But how do you identify the healthier foods and avoid buying those that are not healthy? Reading the food labels is the easiest way. What should you look for on a food label? Start by looking at the list of ingredients. Ingredients on a food label are listed in order of weight in the product. This means that those ingredients listed first are most prominent in that food. So when any type of sugar, fat or sodium appears near the top of the list, it might not be the best choice. Identifying fats on a food label. Here is a list of different things to watch for and things you can do when shopping to help make the best choices regarding the fat content of foods. 1. To identify the fat content of a food, pay particular attention to the following words, as all of these ingredients will be high in saturated fat. Cream, butter, lard, coconut milk, coconut cream, coconut oil, cocoa butter, palm kernel oil and palm oil. If the words partially hydrogenated vegetable oil appear on a food label, it indicates that the product contains trans fats. Remember that, although these fats are derived from plants, the way they are processed or produced causes them to behave like saturated fats in the body, so you should avoid them. If possible, try to select lower fat or fat-free versions of products, for example, low-fat or fat-free milk, yogurt or cheese instead of whole milk versions. Avoid the use of non-dairy creamers, even the light or low-fat varieties, as these often contain saturated or trans fats. It is better to use low-fat or skim milk in tea and coffee. Select leaner cuts of meat and poultry, such as lean or extra lean beef and chicken breasts without the skin. Limit the consumption of processed meats because they are generally higher in saturated fat and sodium. Avoid any products such as commercially baked goods that contain trans fats, and try to select products that are listed as trans fat-free. Be aware of claims such as 60% less fat. These have little meaning unless you know the fat content of the original product. A 60% reduced fat cheese, for example, still could contain 20 grams of fat per serving, which is double the recommended amount. Shopping for fats and oils. Margarines, spreads and oils are typically found in our refrigerators and cupboards. It is important to understand that you don't have to cut these items out entirely to be healthy. When shopping for these items, opt for those that contain monounsaturated fats, which are less saturated fats and more healthy. Fat is better for your heart. One word of caution: use fats and oils sparingly, because even unsaturated fats still have the same calories as the saturated, unhealthy fat. Oils. Olive oil and canola oil are both excellent sources of monounsaturated fats and can be used for cooking and dressings. Sunflower, grapeseed and corn oil are all polyunsaturated oils, which are also healthy and good choices, but the best choice is oils that are rich in monounsaturated fats. Spreads and margarines. When choosing spreads, butter should be avoided as it is very high in saturated fat, and hard brick-type margarines can contain trans fats. The best margarines to buy are the soft tub varieties, especially those that contain canola or olive oil, which are monounsaturated fats. Try to avoid those made only from sunflower or corn oil. Remember, always use fats sparingly. All fats are high in calories. Even the good fats like monounsaturated and polyunsaturated fats have the same energy, calorie, density as saturated fats. The excessive use of any kind of oil or fat will add unnecessary calories to your diet and promote weight gain. Therefore, ensure that you use fats and oils sparingly even if you do use a healthier spread or oil. Identifying sugar on a food label. The term sugar can be used on a nutrition label to describe a variety of different sugars found in the food. Conversely, the manufacturer might list the sugar in a product by a different name, for example, sucrose, brown sugar, invert sugar, dextrose, molasses, corn sweetener, corn syrup, malt syrup, raw sugar, honey, maltose or fruit juice concentrate, among others. All of these sound like very different things, but they are all the same: sugar. Remember that those ingredients that appear closer to the beginning of the list are more prominent in the food, so take note of where the sugar ingredient occurs in the list. How much sugar is healthy? We outlined earlier the recommended amount of sugar adult men and women should have each day. For women it's 6 teaspoons, 24 grams, a day, and for men, 9 teaspoons, 36 grams, a day. Remember, though, this is not just the limit of how much added sugar you can have. These limits include sugar you might eat in jelly, juice or soft drinks, so be careful when choosing foods that list sugar near the top of the ingredients list. Identifying sodium on a food label. We covered sodium and how it can impact your health. Here's how to shop for foods with a healthier sodium content. Like fat and sugar, sodium will occur naturally in some foods, and most manufactured foods will contain some sodium. Unless you are shopping for low sodium and sodium-free foods because of a medical condition like hypertension, it can be difficult to find foods that are free from sodium. It is harder for manufacturers to hide sodium and list it with a different name, though, so most of the time it will appear as salt or sodium. Just like fat and sugar, the same rules apply regarding the ingredients. Watch for sodium when it appears close to the top of the ingredients list, as this indicates that a larger proportion of the food is sodium. Evaluating claims on food labels. Food manufacturers produce some products that they claim have specific nutrient characteristics. For example, low fat, or fat-free, or 50% less fat. The Food and Drug Administration, FDA, strictly regulates these claims, and a product must meet very specific criteria to be labeled with these kinds of claims. But which ones are meaningful? As we mentioned earlier, claims like 60% reduced can be deceiving, because unless you know the starting value, it is difficult to evaluate how healthy or unhealthy the food is. Be cautious when choosing these items, and that they might not be the healthiest choice in that particular food category. The more meaningful claims are those such as low or free. These mean that the nutrient content, fat, sugar or sodium, of each serving of that product is below specific levels as determined by the FDA. These levels have been scientifically evaluated and are supported by scientific evidence. The best choices are those that are free, but foods with a low claim are still much better choices compared to the regular versions of the food. The terms natural, healthy, and organic often cause confusion. You might think these terms imply healthy, but that is not necessarily the case. According to the FDA, natural just means the product does not contain synthetic or artificial ingredients. It does not describe the product's nutritional qualities. Healthy is a term defined by regulation. For a product to be labeled healthy, it must meet certain criteria that define the amounts of fat, saturated fat, cholesterol and sodium, as well as specific minimum amounts of vitamins, minerals, or other beneficial nutrients. The organic label also does not describe the nutritional qualities of the food. Instead, organic foods must meet specific standards set by the U.S. Department of Agriculture, USDA, regarding the way the food is grown or produced. The USDA is careful to make no claims that organically produced food is safer or more nutritious than conventionally produced food. As an example, let's look at a premium ice cream product. It could easily be labeled both natural and organic, but still be high in fat or saturated fat as well as sugar. Foods high in total or saturated fat and sugar are not healthy food choices. Consuming these foods in excess will promote weight gain and increase your risk for chronic diseases. So remember to evaluate all the qualities of a food before deciding it is okay just because it might be fat-free. Hard candy and sweets, for example, are most often fat-free, but very high in sugar. So while not increasing your risk for coronary heart disease, consuming these sweets too often does increase your risk for type 2 diabetes. Add to that the fact that they are energy or calorie dense, contain no nutrients and will promote weight gain. Can you make it simpler for me? Defining what makes a food healthy or unhealthy can mean lots of detailed information. While it is helpful to understand exactly why some foods are better than others, a good rule of thumb is to use the % daily value, or %DV, on the Nutrition Facts panel. If the %DV of a particular nutrient like fat, cholesterol or sodium is 20% or above, then it is high in that nutrient. When the %DV is 5% or less, then it is low for that nutrient. Examining the Nutrition Facts illustration below, for example, this particular food item would meet the following descriptions. Low fat, since the total fat per serving is less than 5% of the % daily value. Low cholesterol, since the cholesterol % daily value is also less than 5%. Notice that it is not a low sodium food since the % daily value for sodium is 18%, which in fact is a relatively high level. Also, there is no % daily value for sugar. The values of 6 teaspoons, 100 calories or 24 grams, for women or 9 teaspoons, 150 calories or 36 grams, for men is the maximum you should be getting every day. There is no recommended minimum amount of sugar you should include in your diet. Key messages for this week. Reading food labels will help you make better food choices and limit your dietary intake of potentially harmful ingredients. Check for the amount of fat and types of fat, as well as how much sugar and sodium the food contains. Be cautious of reduced claims. Instead, try to stick to free or low claims, as these will be better choices. Always consider all the nutritional characteristics of a food, and not just that it is fat-free or low in sodium, for example. Use the percent daily value, or percent DV, to get an idea if the food is high or low in content for a certain nutrient. Remember that 20% or above is considered high, while 5% or less is considered low. The illustration shown above outlines all the important parts of the Nutrition Facts panel that is located on every packaged food sold in the United States. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe.